Hello, beautiful. And what I want to know is what is really, really good in your life today? This is Kia, and this is another episode, a very special episode of the Female Veterans Podcast. Now, today, I have the distinct pleasure of having another shipmate with me, Go Navy. And this shipmate is actually a guy. And since we honor our female veterans here on the Female Veterans Podcast every single week, for Veterans Day, we're going to do something a little different and invite the boys. Now, as a female veteran, we are used to hanging out with the guys, and so this should be no different. So my guest today is Marcos Corral, and he is an incredible human being. He is the most open-minded, sweet soul that I probably have ever met. He is incredibly talented as a musician. I mean, he's cool. He rides bikes. He has guns. He plays music. I mean, how much cooler can you be unless you add comedy to that and writing and hosting a podcast, a really, really cool podcast that infuses spirituality with open-mindedness and provokes thought. And this is called the Freethinkers Podcast, and I invite you all to check it out. It's amazing. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for coming, Marcos.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for that amazing introduction. I feel so important now.
You are important to me. So, as you know, I have a few questions for you. And the first one is, what made you join the military?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I don't know. At the time I was 18, I was going to Scher High School in Los Angeles County. And a lot of my friends were actually signing up for the military. I just wanted to do music. You know, I was in a hip hop group called Clockwise. We did some shows and it was dope.
Sounds dope. That sounds really dope. I would have gone to see you for sure.
There's a video out there somewhere of us performing. I have no idea where it's at. I let some guy borrow it and he ended up losing it or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, so we were doing that for a little while and I was like, I need some money. You know, I grew up in East LA, so we were broke, you know, so it was just a matter of money for me. So I wanted to do music and, yeah, I didn't have the money for it. I didn't know what the gear was or anything like that. I did have a guitar that my dad bought for me for like $20 in the LA riots. So I was just watching the LA riots on TV, and then he just came home with like a $1,500 guitar. He's like, "Yeah, I paid like $40 for this."
Wow!
I was like, all right. So that was my first guitar. It was I still have it. It's a Hohner, and it's kind of like an electric nylon guitar. It's kind of weird, but yeah, that's when I first started kind of playing it. But yeah, so all my friends were actually, you know, joining, and I was like, man, I need to do something that's somewhere along those lines. So I talked to one of my buddies and he was like, dude, we should go be Navy SEALs. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go be Navy SEALs. I was like, that's dope. So we're at the recruiter's office. They were showing me all the buds training. And I was just like, damn, that's badass. I was like, yeah, I would want to do that. So I think we were like 17 at the time. So we still had, I don't know, maybe like 9 months of school left. So I was like, all right, we're going to train for this. So me and him used to run every single day for like 6 months. And I ended up not graduating in time. So I had my A school and I had everything. I was supposed to be a aviation mechanic. And,
wow.
I didn't graduate in time because of a girl.
Oh no.
But I still graduated in the summer, but by then like that billet had gone away. So,
right.
So I ended up being just an electrician, and that worked out for me pretty well because I went to actually my first introduction to the Navy's foot in your ass was I had orders to to go get stationed in San Diego. And I was like, awesome. I had my girlfriend at the time. So that was going to be awesome. I go check in with the Master Chief and he's like, you're not supposed to be here. And I was like, what? He's like, you had an order modification and you're going to be stationed in Washington. And I was like, what the heck? Oh man, I was pissed. I was sad.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay. But the good thing about it was, the base in San Diego at 32nd Street has like a wet side where all the ships are, and then there's a dry side where like all the training happens, and there's tons of barracks there or whatever. So I went to stay there. It was a pre-commission unit, and I was on the USS Shoop DDG 86, and So I stayed in the dry side for a long time, and then we ended up moving to Mississippi for a little while the ship was being built there in Ingalls. Now it's Northrop Grumman. Then I ended up being stationed in Everett for 5 years. So that was my career. Did three deployments, one Westpac, and then another, what the hell was that called? I don't know. We were in the Asian Pacific, but that was only like 5 months. And then we did another one in South America. That one was awesome. Oh yeah, man. We went to Ecuador. We went to all the party towns in Mexico. We actually, all the engineers got together. You know how sometimes when the ships go into port, they have these things where you like volunteer your time and they go help pass out food or something like that. We actually built a school in Ecuador. It was Manta, Ecuador.
What?
So all the engineers, we got together and we did the electrical side. So, I mean, we put lights in there. We put like a bunch of different amenities that the school didn't have. And it was like 3 classrooms. And then one that was outside, it was like all bamboo. So we tore it down and we built like a better foundation and built it up. And we did that. And then the ladies there, they came and they brought us the local food that they made. Ooh, man, that was worth it right there.
I bet.
Man, the grandmas, man, it was the grandmas coming over cooking the food. I was like, dude, this is awesome.
That's culture and heritage and love and some food.
Oh, it was amazing. Never had anything like that before. But yeah, so, that was it. I didn't really know why I wanted to get into the Navy, but I guess trying to be a Navy SEAL is what got me in. And then that ended up not working out because of a girl. My other friend too, he's like, nah, I don't want to be away from my girl. Because he's like, these guys are gone so much, So I was like, all right, cool. But I still ended up doing some other stuff. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So you just kind of ended up in the military to be a SEAL, and then that just totally didn't happen.
That didn't happen. I was really working for it too. We had flags. I was like, let's get some SEAL tattoos, man. He's like, no, let's wait if we're going to graduate. So, man, I wanted it so bad because I used to watch, I forgot what Bud's class was. It's like 249 or something. I had the 487. I used to watch that thing like 2 or 3 times a day, every single day for like months on end. I'm like, dude, I want this. And me and him, like, we chose to not do it together. I think if I would have kept going, I think I would have probably gotten in because, I mean, I had nothing else to go back to. I didn't want to go back to being poor in East LA. I didn't want to do anything else other than that, So, like, for me, I would have either broke myself or I would have gotten in,
Right on.
So, but I don't regret it. I'm glad I went the route that I went because I would have been a totally different person,
Absolutely. I remember being on the base in Great Lakes, and I'd always see these guys running around in their little yellow shorts, very small shorts, as a young girl. And I remember I'd be like, why are those guys always running? And they'd be like, they're SEAL training. And then I started to learn more about how hard it was, and that you'd see like a lot of these guys not make it, and they would be like just devastated. And the guys that did make it, well, then you saw why they had such big egos, many of them, not all of them. So, but I mean, it's really hard, and it's an amazing career. So yeah, I can see why you would want to have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys are stone cold, man, when it comes to the job that they have to do. So, it almost like the ego and the confidence that almost has to be there for them to be able to do what they need to do on that level, you know?
Yeah, serious missions. So, okay. So I know we talked a bit about your military experience, but I'm going to back it up just a little bit. And I'm going to ask you what boot camp was like for you.
It was really weird. When I first got there, it was almost like this. Whenever you go somewhere as a kid and you're like, okay, we're at this city now, we're in Santa Monica, or we're in Las Vegas, or we'll go to like Northern California. You always kind of feel the vibe of the city, feel the vibe of the town. Even when you go there now, if you go to Vegas, you kind of like, you liven up a little bit. You're just like, damn, especially in the nighttime, you're like, damn, this is a party town, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know, like you just jump right into the vibe of it. The vibe in Great Lakes, I was like, man, this is so weird. I don't even feel like I'm somewhere. I feel like I'm nowhere. Like, what the hell? And man, you know, it was like everything just moves so fast. You don't really have a chance to like really soak it in. You know, I went, I think it was like during August, so it wasn't too cold yet. But man, I feel like in boot camp, I got like the worst thing. Like all the time, like I feel like we got the worst division. Like we only got to make phone calls like once or twice back home.
Wow, really?
Oh man, it was horrible. And I ended up in the deep sink, which is like the worst. And my buddy ends up being like, I forgot what his role was, but he just got to hang out with like the base master chief. You know, and like get him coffee or something. And I was like, damn, I wanted that. How come I can't get that? He's like, dude, my job is so easy. And I was like, man, screw you. I was in deep sink in the galley. And, you know, for me, I felt like I always ended up with the hardest jobs, you know, but I don't know, maybe I just needed it because I needed to build my character like that. Because my dad left when I was like 12 and he was like into drugs and everything. So he kind of just, you know, I fell by the wayside for him. So I didn't really have a good, like, strong role model to follow. So
right.
The Navy was like, we're gonna beat that shit into you.
For real though. I mean, okay, so I 100% get what you're talking about, Great Lakes, because when I got there, I felt like the same way. Because they didn't even fly me; they just put me on a train from Pennsylvania and sent me there, and I had to figure out my life and find my way to boot camp. Right, and I did it. Of course. And when I got there, I remember thinking, where am I? This place is so strange. And, you know, I actually ended up getting stationed there. I spent all 5 years there. And I got to get to know the place more, but it still always had that in between feeling to it. Like, it's not Chicago, but yet it's not like, where is this? It's just kind of a no man's land.
It's like a void of time and space. It just, right. Culture doesn't exist. It's just all Navy.
It's pretty crazy. And then in boot camp, I was like your friend. I ended up in, like a division that was integrated, and our job, we didn't go to the galley at all. And we either cleaned the barracks and the drill hall. That was our responsibility. But within that, I was selected to make Kool-Aid at graduation. So my job was to serve Kool-Aid, like to prepare and serve the Kool-Aid that went with the cake that all the officers ate after every single graduation. So then I remember thinking, wow, this isn't that bad. Like, I don't even have to clean the barracks. I don't have to clean the drill hall. All I have to do is make Kool-Aid and hostess it around, and then I get to eat cake. Like, boot camp's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, what a crazy dichotomy between, you know, the things that people have to do. But I mean, there's different jobs in the Navy, so, you know,
exactly.
It is.
And that's why I love hearing what people went through in boot camp, because my experience was completely different, because we didn't have a brother company. We were half girls, half boys. So It was a unique experience to have it work like that. And then we had, they were CCs back then, and it was, we had a male and a female. So it was like really interesting, a really interesting situation, how they ran that and how we all marched together and everything. But that's why I love to hear everyone's boot camp experience because it was so different for each of us, or many of us, especially depending on when you served.
Battle stations was my favorite, man. That was fun to me. I was like, man, we started kind of getting into like when people started having to put their shoes on instead of run with their boots. Mm-hmm. So we had to run with our boots in our necks. And that would, of course, chafe the back of your neck. They're like, oh, they don't want people running in their boots anymore because they'll get like stress fractures or whatever. Mm-hmm. I was just like, man, I prefer to have a stress fracture than, boot laces scraping your neck. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like now. I'm sure it's gotten a lot more PC, which is probably part of the reason why I left. So I was just like, I'm not liking this, man. I'm not liking this PC culture.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I'm politically correct. Sometimes I'm not. Mm-hmm. And,
me too.
But it's, it's just, I don't know. Too much. Everyone knows, especially if veterans are active listening to it. It's the same thing. Even I got Marine buddies who, they live in Phoenix, and every time I go over there, we sit down and we just talk about, those times, and it's the BS is the same in every branch. So
right.
Like, oh my God. Yeah.
We find that here on the Female Veterans podcast too. The BS is the same in every branch.
Yeah.
But, it's something that actually unifies us too, I think. So definitely, yeah, I can subscribe to that. Okay. So I have another question for you. Did you make a lot of friends in boot camp? Are there any that stuck out?
Yeah, I did actually. Man, I met so many fun people. I still dream about those times actually. Like sometimes I'll have dreams that I'm like on a ship, and this is like, man, I got out in 2007.
Right.
So here I am like 12 years later, still having dreams about dang ship. But yeah, man, the people I had, I don't know if I should say this, but I had a girlfriend on the boat.
Did you?
Yep. I got one word for anybody who's still in the military. Just, you didn't get it from me. Fan rooms. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, you heard it here. Female Veterans Podcast.
I'm sure you guys can fill in the blanks.
Well, you had fun, so that's good. Okay, so you had a girlfriend. That's awesome. Did you have any lasting relationships post boot camp?
Post boot camp? Oh man. Well, I mean, the one I'm in now. I got two kids now, and they're great. It's a lot of work, but yeah, it's amazing. So let's see. When I got out, I had a couple of girls I was dating. Nothing too serious until I met my wife, who she's kind of a little bit older than me, so she kind of domesticated me and put me in my place. She's like, I was like, man, I'm so wild. I'm like, you're wild and you want to get into a relationship, and you're like, rah. She's like, no. You gotta sit down. Let me teach you a thing or two. And I was like, man, hell no, I'm free, right? But she was like, no, we need to make this work. So, she's my backbone, man. I wouldn't be the person I am today without her.
That's amazing. So did you guys meet while you were serving?
No, I met her like in 2010.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, this was like, I met her in Santa Cruz, actually. We're over there doing a conference, and I met her there. And then we ended up, the job that I got after the Navy, I ended up going to North Carolina for like a couple of weeks, and she lived in Charlotte. So she came up to see me, and we hung out. We were just chilling. Then I went from Raleigh to Charlotte because my job was kind of moving me around there. I was just there for like a couple of weeks while they got a replacement. But it was perfect. It was actually perfect because I was like, out of the blue, like my job had just gotten hired. They're like, hey man, we need somebody to go, over there to the East Coast for a couple of weeks. And I was like, all right, cool. And I ended up hanging out with her, and we just connected,
Oh,
and then by the time by the time I got back, I kept talking to her. She ended up moving to California. And then, all the magic happened.
Aw, that's amazing. I love that story. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to back it up for a second because we talked about a lot of your military career. I want to get into a little bit more specifics about your time in before we talk about your transition out, which I know your lovely wife plays a huge part of. So what would you say was your biggest challenge that you had to face while serving?
There was a couple different ones. I think in the beginning, because I still had that high school sweetheart, just being away from her, that was excruciating. And she ended up breaking up with me right before I went on deployment. And I was like, oh my God. I was just devastated for like 2 weeks.
Oh man.
But, yeah, so that was definitely a challenge, and I'm sure a lot of people deal with the same thing. Somebody who, they really have your heart. Now you got to be away from them. That's really hard. It's tough, The other thing was just having to deal with the politics. I think in the civilian world, when you have somebody that is above you that doesn't know what they're doing, it's kind of rare, because especially in an engineering field, if you don't know what you're doing, you're not in leadership position whatsoever. It could be different, in other industries, obviously. But you can just bail, or you can just, file grievances, or be like, dude, this guy does not know what he's talking about. And you can demonstrate it through your skill set, like, my boss, he doesn't care what, like whatever you got on paper. The way he hires you, he's like, he looks at your credentials and he's like, all right, I got some units downstairs in the warehouse. Go take a look at them. And you go down there, you crank your head on it for, a couple of hours. Oh, it needs this and needs that. And you kind of just prove yourself, instead of, I got a high school diploma and I'm working with guys with masters, and it's because I put in the work to learn this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that I faced the challenges that I did while I was in the military. Like, for instance, electricians, everyone gets to, as soon as you pull in the port, everyone just bails, and you still got to stay there for a couple hours doing shore power, doing all the stuff that needs to be done. And then sometimes you have contractors come in working with you, so you can't just take off right away, so that always pissed me off. I was like, dang, I should have been an OS or bosun mate or something. Because I was like, damn, everyone's just taking off, man, and we got to be here for a couple hours or whatever. But because I did those challenges, I had that challenge in my life, and I spent all the extra time, and being an engineer is stressful. It really set me up for the civilian world to end up getting, a good job, so this is always my fallback. This industry, as far as backup power, it's never going away, unless even if we all get our jobs taken over by robots, they're not going to be able to just go in there and do what I do. So I think I'm pretty good on that.
Job security. You got to love it, right?
Yep.
So that's amazing, though. I mean, it sounds like even with the obstacles that you faced while serving, you actually got really a lot out of it, a lot of benefit out of it, which brings me to my next question, which is, what do you think was the greatest benefit of your service?
I think it was just the experience. Growing up as, a poor kid, not really having the opportunity to travel much and to experience different cultures and all of these things. Just the experience, being able to meet somebody from Kentucky and Washington and Texas and Florida and New York, and all those guys you see them every day. It's just like, wow, such a trip. The travel, that's amazing. It changes who you are as a person. It allows you to become more cultured, I would say. When I got out and got back, I was you talk to some of the people that don't even leave the state or that never even left the state. And it's just like, dude, like there's a whole world out there that you don't even know about, you know, and you pretty much just get that by default, you know, just by being in the military or in the Navy at least. So yeah, you know, I definitely don't regret it. Wouldn't want to do it again, but I don't regret it. And I appreciate every opportunity that the military gave me. So yeah, I think just being cultured, being around a lot of different people, and of course the travel.
Awesome. That's very cool. So what was your transition out like?
So, I had like 45 days of leave that I had never taken. So right I was like, all right. So now I got 45 days that I'm getting paid here. So I took my leave, and I was just kind of just chilling for those 45 days. My roommates, I had 2 roommates at the time. I was living in Everett, Washington, and I think both of them ended up taking off I think they were going to go away for like 2 months or 3 months or something like that. So they ended up moving out of the apartment before me. I was the last one. So I kind of just kicked it there for a little while. And then I was like, I got to find out what I want to do. Do I want to move back to California where I actually know some people? Do I want to stay here? Didn't really want to stay in Washington. So I ended up calling my stepdad, and I was like, hey, can you help me move? He's like, yeah, I'll make some time. So I paid for his flight. He flew up and he helped me move back down to California. And while I was there, actually, the transition for me was relatively smooth because I was going to church at the time, and I kind of just smoothed into that transition where I didn't have to think a lot about the people that I left behind or the friends that I used to have, because some of those people I kind of grew up with, and I had some new friends at the time. So just having that community at a church kind of allowed me to have a smooth transition socially. And then also I started playing guitar with the church band. So that was pretty awesome. It allowed me to kind of bring out another avenue that I used to have that I didn't exercise too much in the military. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, for me, it was pretty great. And I would equate that to just having the church community.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I know a lot of times when we leave the military, it feels really lonely. And I could see how being a part of a community and just having that to navigate right back into would be very beneficial to the transition. Did you go through TAPS before you left?
Yeah, I did. I went through TAPS. I became like an expert resume writer at TAPS. So when I got out, all of my buddies were like, "Hey man, can you help me write a resume?" I was like, "Heck yeah, dude! Come on over. We'll hook it up." And so I would use all kinds of fancy, words or whatever. They're like, "Dang, dude, I had like 2 paragraphs, and now you got like a whole page." So they saw me, and so I was like, "Dang, I should have started charging people." Now that I think about it, because I helped so many people write their resumes, and because of TAP class. But yeah, that definitely prepared me. I kept all those TAP documents for like 10 years. So I was like, just never know when you might need this. But I'm like, yeah, eventually you kind of just don't need them anymore.
Right. Well, I feel that resume writing, I really got some skills in TAPS for that too. And I still write resumes for people. Actually, on occasion, they'll be like, "Hey, look at my resume. Can you?" And I'll go, let me see what's current in resumes now, and then I'll hook it up. So I totally feel that aspect of it. It served me well when I entered into the corporate world initially. Just having that strong resume writing skill was extremely beneficial. But unlike you, I could not work my job, the one that I had while I was privileged like a pharmacist as a hospital corpsman working in the pharmacy. But on the civilian side, the techs don't have the same privileges. You have to go to school for that. So my skill didn't translate out on the way that I had hoped, as I initially thought that it would. But the reality of it was that I was just not going to go to school to learn something I had been doing for 3 years and doing well. So I had to transition. But that skill of writing a resume really helped me, because my decision was, okay, I'm going to go into corporate and I'm going to go slay that world now.
You still got those medical skills?
Yeah, actually, I do. It's funny. My kids, whenever anything happens to them, it just clicks right back into that mode of triage. So, and my son, actually, my oldest kid is like that now, which he learned from me. If anyone gets hurt in the neighborhood, any of the kids, he's got the kit. He's like on it. He's like triaging them, treating the wound, like doing everything. It's really, actually, it's pretty cute. It's funny.
I had a buddy who he was a corpsman in the Navy, but he used to work with the Marines a lot. Mm-hmm. And when he got out, he actually went to Afghanistan as a private contractor. And when he stopped doing that, I was doing a lot of firearms training around maybe like 2009, 2010, and 11. Mm-hmm. And those were in my John Wick days. I just put a video on my Facebook where it's just like, yeah, look at them skills, baby. That's a 40 caliber.
Check that out for sure.
That's a 40 caliber MMP 40. You check out them recoil management skills. Probably can't do that anymore, because I was shooting every single weekend back then. Mm-hmm. I was taking classes with a tactical instructor, and so that's where I got my firearm skills. Not even from the military. I actually got him from a civilian guy who trains cops, SWAT members. But anyway, this dude, we started actually combining like the tactical shooting with like tactical medical care. So he actually started making money. We hooked up with a bunch of different tactical instructors, and we're like, hey, this is our buddy right here. You can open up a tactical class. You can make some money. You give him some money, and then he can actually teach this tactical medical for you. Mm-hmm. Now he works for a really cool medical company called Dark Angel Tactical, somewhere along those lines. And all they do is like combat medical training for civilians. So
that's really cool.
Zombie apocalypse skills. Go ahead, get you some of that right there.
So I didn't do field med. That's one thing. I actually was thinking about doing field med, and then I went to work in the pharmacy instead, because I was really good at pharmacology and it looked fun. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But as far as like being medical, like a PA, that's where my knowledge lies as far as medical training.
We got to get you out there.
Well, if I need a career change, I'm going to hit you up for sure. You got the hookup for me for sure. And we're both corpsmen, so I'll be in there. Mm-hmm. So now we have you transitioning out, and you've had a smooth transition. You didn't face any obstacles transitioning out. Everything was really cool, right?
Yeah. When I got out, there's this company, I forget I think it's called Orion International. Mm-hmm. And as far as if you have any type of technical skill that you did in the military, what they do is basically they're just a headhunter for technical military people. In my case, I was an electrician. So what they do is they take your resume, they say, they deal specifically with military. So they will submit your resume. They do all the footwork for you. And they're basically your liaison to companies, to huge companies. So my first job that I landed was actually with GE.
Wow.
And so I went to one other interview, and they were looking for like a more mechanical guy. But then I went to GE, and my interview was with this lady. She called me. I didn't even know what they wanted. So it was like, oh yeah, we're going to have her call you or whatever. So she calls me and she's like, hey, this is the type of work we do. I was like, so you guys are familiar? You want somebody familiar with like three-phase? And I was like, the most worst interview ever. And then like at the end of the phone call, she was like, so yeah, you want the job? I was like, yeah. I was like, I didn't even realize this was like an official interview. Wow. But yeah, so I ended up getting that. They gave me the training for it. And I started up installing CAT scan machines. So I was doing that for a little while. Then I shifted over the departments from GE Healthcare to power quality, and I started working on backup power supplies. And I love that more because you get to travel and get in and out of places a lot quicker. So with the CAT scan stuff, like you travel somewhere to a city like New Mexico, or I mean, that job took me from Tampa to Manhattan.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was cool for a while, but after like 3 years, I'm like, dude, this is getting old. I'm never home. You can't raise a family like that. But that's why I hopped over to this one. But yeah, it was really cool. Hopped over to power quality side. I was kind of, man, that job took me to some interesting places. So you've heard of like Mennonites, right? Like the Amish.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there's this group of like I guess they're German, but they're in Montana. So I was in Montana one day. I was on a dirt road for like 12 miles just to get to this place. Not even on the GPS. This is like 2009. So GPS wasn't what it is right now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I get there. I got my spiky hair. I'm listening to like heavy metal. It's probably like the only Mexican these people have ever seen. So I pull up in this Jeep and I was like, hey, I'm looking for like a Jade Wilson or whatever. She's like, oh, there's like 9 of them here. And I was like, what the hell? And they're all dressed like Little House on the Prairie. You know, they're outside playing tetherball. And I was just like, what in the hell is this? So like, I'm like, I look at them and they all start speaking German. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to die. And I was like, what the hell? So, yeah, they're called Hutterites. So they're kind of like a spin-off of the Mennonites, but they're called Hutterites. So they're like almost at the border of like the US and Canada. So I was up there and, yeah, so that job took me to some really interesting places.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. But yeah, Orion International, if you've got any type of technical skill, they'll do all the footwork for you to help you try to find a job, and they'll hook you up with companies that are looking specifically for military guys because they want the discipline. They don't want Johnny who just got his diploma and doesn't have any experience.
And that's good information to have. Because I have talked to a bunch of girls recently that have tech skills from the military, and that's a great hookup for easing a transition out, for someone who might be trying to get out, because a lot of people have a really hard time transitioning out. It's always so refreshing for me to hear someone that just was able to transition and slid into a job that led them to another job, and they didn't have that pitfall that a lot of us experience. I think that's amazing. And that's a great company. Actually, I will put information in the show notes. So if anyone is interested in that, they can find it easier. Yeah. So, okay, my next question for you is, so you got out, you moved through some career moves that were pretty successful, and you made a beautiful family. Tell me what made you get into podcasting? That's what you're doing now.
Joe Rogan and marijuana.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm glad you said it.
So I was watching this show one day, and this guy, I was like, man, these guys are having a really awesome conversation, and they're talking about weed, and they're talking about different psychedelics, and they seemed like they were really together. They didn't fit your typical quote unquote stoner persona. Right. So like this guy was fit, he was working out, he was talking about all this exercise, he was talking about the UFC, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, okay. And I started watching some more, and then he interviewed like Be Real from Cypress Hill, and I was like, all right, cool. Wow. You got some musicians on there. All right, sweet. Then I saw some other musicians on there too. Then he had doctors on there. I was like, all right, who's this Joe Rogan guy, right? So I went to go see him at a comedy show. Funny as hell. I got to meet him. I told him that I wanted to try some DMT. He started giggling like a little girl. He was like, all right, this is like the earlier days of the podcast. But yeah, so I kind of moved into it through that. I hadn't tried any like weed or anything. It was legal here in California. But yeah, so I ended up trying it through one of my friends, and we started like playing poker one day, and I was just like so freaking blasted, but I was having a good time. They're getting pissed off at me because I was, you're playing poker with guys drinking whiskey or something. I was making bets like, man, I'll bet like $13. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? It's like, and you just keep like $1, $5, $10. Why are you betting like $13.10? So I was just blasted, but I had a really good time, and I was like, I hadn't smoked anything since like high school, and even then it wasn't anything like that. So that really started to open up my mind introspectively. So I really started to see decisions that I had made in my life that weren't actually the best decisions, and I just kind of became a little bit more humble and willing to listen to people. Because sometimes, especially guys in the military, your ego gets built up. And I had to demolish that enemy, because the ego for a man is like an enemy you don't even know that you have. People told me
so true.
That like, you're arrogant. I was like, I'm not arrogant. I'm just kind of I like having fun. I'm chilling, and I never took that to heart. A lot of people told me that, and I was just like, damn. It wasn't until I really started taking the oils and the edibles and stuff that, I really, really began to see that about myself. But that's what did it for me. It allowed me to be more open-minded about a lot of different things, about topics that I never even cared about. I never cared about space. And now I'm like in love with space, man. I have these apps on my phone. I let my son play with them, and I was like, "Look, dude!" And like I show him the constellations and the different types of stars. And he's like, "Wow!" He's like, "This is amazing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm amazed too." And so awesome. we'll just sit outside, lay on the grass, and just look at the stars. But yeah, it opened up a whole new avenue of ideas that I didn't even know I was interested in. So, I was doing vlogs at the time, just on my phone and showing them to some of my friends. They were like, this is really good stuff, man. You should put this out. I was like, I'm not ready to go public with this.
Right on.
But after Brian Rose kicked my ass, I was like, yeah, I need that a little bit. So yeah, here we are, Freethinkers Allowed podcast.
Well, I love the Freethinkers Allowed podcast. And I think it's really interesting that it was legal marijuana that really started the process of expanding your awareness. And I'm interested, though, because you told us about you were in church and you were a member of the church, you played in the church band, and now you're smoking weed. Isn't that sort of a conflict of interest?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's, I'm trying to break the taboo. I'm really trying to break the taboo of psychedelics. Because I went into it with every perception that maybe any other religious person would have, which is like, oh man, you're a stoner, you're going to go brain dead, you're going to kill cells, you kill your brain cells.
Propaganda.
And all this. And I'm like, sure. And, and I saw it growing up in East LA. I saw the drug abuse. I didn't know what drugs,
right.
But I definitely saw some people that just weren't right. So I just lumped every drug into this category where it's like you just do something and it's just going to screw up your life forever. Until I heard Rogan talking about it, and he talked about the benefits of it, and I looked into it scientifically. Like, what are these doctors that are researching it? What are they saying about it? So the more and more I researched it for a long time, like months and months before I even tried it. So I just wanted to make sure, So I researched a lot, and I finally just tried it, and it was the best, man. It was like, man, where have you been all my life? So I've spoken with Christian ministers that do it, and they're like, I'm just like, dude, this is great. I'm not a minister. My finances don't depend on any kind of ministry. So right. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it, but they're like, they got sponsors and they got all this stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. I dig it. I respect that. But let me pioneer this. That way I make it easier for everybody to accept when you come when you come out with it. But man, I've smoked with some of these preachers, right? Mm-hmm. And like, man, they'll have like one time I was, we were just smoking and like, we were like listening to like Whitney Houston singing, like just like YouTube videos. And we're just like, oh my God. I had never even paid attention to Whitney Houston, but I just saw like just the raw talent that she had. And like, he's like started crying, you know? And I was just like, damn, dude. I was like, yeah, like I wasn't like judgmental or anything. I was like, yeah, I dig it. Like, I ain't going to cry for Whitney Houston, you know? You know, maybe Chris Stapleton, but not Whitney Houston. But I was like, nah, I dig it. You know, I dig it. I dig how that's getting you. And then, you know, I really want to break the taboo because I think this stuff is a gift to us, you know, and I understand the hellfire that I'm going to receive from, you know, religious communities. I get it, but I'm to the point where I know the science behind it. I can explain it very well. I can debate it if people want to debate for whatever reason. Yeah. And I'm willing to take on that fight. Not that I want to fight. I just want to chill and tell people about it.
Smoke weed.
You know, and, you know, and I really don't need it, you know, because you know, you do meditation and all these other things and your body already has these perceptors within your mind to be able to have these experiences without any kind of substance, you know. And I've said it before, I just don't know how much meditation you're going to have to do to, you know, get something like a DMT trip out of it, you know, because that's
probably a lot.
Yeah. You know, so will it get you there? Yeah, it'll get you there faster. But yeah, do you need it? Nah, you don't need it. But a lot of people don't even know how to get to those places without anything, you know. And for me, weed was like something that taught me that was even there, you know. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to those places without it now, you know, just through contemplative prayer, kind of like the old school Christian mystics. Mm-hmm. And
I love that.
Yeah, and I've gotten to those places. I don't really smoke that much anymore, but I feel like it definitely helped me out a lot, and just to try to recalibrate my mind, my soul, my spirit, whatever you want to call it, to this place where I was just more considerate of people, much kinder, gentler man, you know, but at the same time being also in tune with my body and not be a lazy ass, you know, because sometimes I'll smoke and I'm like, dude, I just want to go stretch for like 2 hours on the floor and I'll just do it. You know, I'll spend like 10 minutes on one muscle, you know, and by the time I'm done, I feel like I ran a marathon, because it's like, of course, guys are going to say, oh, were you stretching? What are you, gay? You know, I'm like, dude, you don't even understand, man. Like stretching does so much more for your body than even lifting weights does. Because you're moving. It's like Ido Portal says, you know, stuff that stops moving in your body starts to degrade in quality. So, you know, weed does that for me for sure.
That's incredible. You know, here at the Female Veterans Podcast, I support alternative therapies, and I am a huge supporter of taking marijuana for treatment of PTSD, for fibromyalgia, for other chronic pain. It's just, for me personally, has been transformative in my ability to function in everyday life while living with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and PTSD. And so it's amazing to hear you say that, because I always say, do the research. Don't just, like, if you're a veteran who is suffering from something and you may be suicidal, what do you have to lose on trying something like this that might expand your mind to the point of seeing things in a different way, that they don't seem so bleak that you need to end it all, or you're so much pain you just don't know what to do anymore and life is barely worth living? Then what do you have to lose? Do the research and find this answer for yourself, and check the science, because it's out there. It's all out there. And then just enjoy some weed, or enjoy, you know, a ketamine infusion, or, you know, like those SG blocks, those shots that they do in your neck. You know, you guys might remember Lauren's episode, but for PTSD sufferers, there's like it's like two kinds of lidocaine that they shoot into your knot and it stops the nerve pain. That's cutting edge. It's new. Hardly anyone uses it or knows about it. They're still testing it, but it works and it's helping people. And we've got to get the word out some way. We've all got to do our part to let our veteran brothers and sisters know what we're doing to help us feel better and feel good in life. So I'm really glad that you discussed that because I'm about that life. So,
oh yeah.
So this is something that you discuss on your podcast. Tell us all what else we could hear about on Freethinkers Allowed.
Well, another thing is, a lot of people are apprehensive about taking any kind of substance. And I will say this. If you don't want to take anything, there's a way that you can do it without having to take anything. But you need to first find out who you really are. You need to find out the only way you're going to get fulfillment in life is through servitude towards your human fellows, but through not just any kind of servitude, but through your specific gifting for the reason that God put you on this planet and created you to do, whether that's mop the floor, whether that's create a podcast, create awesome music, beautiful artwork. You need to find that out. So a lot of stuff that I tell the people or some of my listeners that don't want to try anything, they're super apprehensive about doing it. Mm-hmm. I say, look, you need to find out who you are. You don't know who you are. What do you like to do? Start doing those things. If you don't like to do anything, which I get that sometimes, I don't know what to do. I don't like to do anything. It's look, go on Living Social. Get yourself one of those $20, $30, up to $100 packages and go do stuff with people. They're going to force you to sit down and talk to people, go do different activities, rock climbing with a dinner, or you get to go, hang out on a booze cruise and just meet people. And of course, booze is a social lubricant. So it gets people talking to you easier. And then you're going to find out a little bit more about yourself, and don't be afraid of a struggle, because a struggle shows you who you are. So, get uncomfortable, talk to new people, and really find out who you are and what you want to do, because through those things, you're going to find out how you can help people. You're going to find so much satisfaction by helping people through whatever your gifting is. So yeah, there you go. We either do it with weed or without weed. There's still a way to do it.
Right on.
Yeah.
I love that. And which brings me to my next question, because you already were giving us such wonderful advice just now. I would like to ask you if you have any advice for our veteran community or anyone who might be active and about to transition out. What type of advice would you leave with the listeners today?
You made a point that I think is really important, and that's people being lonely, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you move to a new city or you move back home. But the thing is, when you move back home, people are not the way you are. You've changed. You've been around the world. You've been around different people. They might not understand you. And that's okay. That's all right. Because we think that, okay, man, I need to get maybe back into the military so I can be around people who understand me. It's all right to be not understood. I've been misunderstood all my life. But if you can plug yourself into some kind of community, whether that's going to a church, whatever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be, any major religion or whatever. Just get into something that's going to hook you up with people that are going to be genuine. You can also go to gun ranges, especially if you're a girl. Oh man, you're going to get swarmed by guys. You're never going to be, it's like, oh my God, a girl that shoots. That's awesome. You can make a career on Instagram being a gun bunny. I've seen it. I mean, girls have gotten like movie roles just because they just go to the range and shoot with guys, They're like, oh my God, let me buy you your ammo. You'll probably never have to shoot and buy any ammo. But yeah, you go, the gun community, they're a great community to have, that's a really good place to go. And just generally, those are basically the two that kind of worked for me, was just some kind of church, some kind of assembly that you can go to and meet some people and hang out with them, or a gun range, because gun ranges are super fun.
They are fun. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I took my gun quals, It was funny. I mean, I'm not proud of it because I am somewhat of a feminist, admittedly, but no one let me do anything. I mean, except shoot the gun. Like, they loaded it for me. They did everything for me. I shot the gun. They helped me. Like, pretty much everything was just catered to me, which sometimes can be nice, but sometimes kind of sucks because you want, as a girl, to just hold it down sometimes and be a badass. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but yeah, I can see how that could happen. Being a chick hanging it out at the gun range and stuff like that could be pretty fun. Especially if you're a good shot. I think that would be a community that would be really interesting to become a part of. If you're transitioning out, it might really help.
There's a lot of veterans there too. That, you know, if you're looking for that type of connection where it's like, oh man, these people kind of understand me. You're going to find veterans at a gun shop or a gun show or at a range or something like that. They're going to be there.
Mm-hmm. And that's important too. I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times many of us feel most connected with other veterans, like civilians don't. It's fortunate that you found that church community, but a lot of times when we come out, we might feel like civilians just don't get us, but other veterans do. And a gun range is a good point. You will find a lot of vets there, and that's awesome. And also these clubs like the American Legion and the VFW and stuff like that. If you're into that, you can go and join those and be around veterans. And I belonged to the American Legion for many years in Chicago. I loved it. There was a lot of the older vets there. They were always super kind, and they were always giving me life advice while we had cocktails. And you can't beat that. Like, it's an awesome experience. So different ways to find community on your way out is a great piece of advice.
Oh yeah. Motorcycles too. If you go get a motorcycle safety course, for veterans, actually normally it's about $200, almost $300 for, anybody. But if you can provide your DD-214, you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, it only costs like $100. And
wow.
I went from like zero experience. My wife got me into motorcycling. So she had been riding for like 6 years. She's
That's
like
so
a speed
cool.
freak.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was like, go take the class. So I took the class, and I went from like zero experience to riding a motorcycle in 2 days. So,
oh my goodness.
And motorcycles, there's another Instagram model type of opportunity there.
Where's the Instagram models at? You're getting all these leads.
Oh yeah, motorcycles, guns, like, man, anything that guys are into that you think might be fun, like, guys will hook you up. Oh yeah, you can ride my motorcycle. Go ahead.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. So, okay, that was amazing advice. And I'm sure that we've got a lot of people that have got some new hobbies that they're going to be doing. So tell me, where can we find you if we want to hear Freethinkers Allowed and follow your social media and all of that good stuff?
So I am on everywhere you can hear podcasts. I'm on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. What's the other one? Overcast, and basically anything. And if I'm not on there, send me a DM on Instagram, because I'm pretty active on there, and just tell me, hey, can you put it on here? And I'll put it on there. But I'm also on Facebook. I put all my episodes on there. Most people just listen to it on iTunes. So, yep, there it is. Freethinkers Allowed podcast.
I definitely listen to it on Spotify. It is on my playlist. And if you want to hear very interesting conversations about pretty much everything and spirituality, then you should check it out for sure. And with that, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much, Marcos, for being my guest on my special Veterans Day week episode. And so I appreciate you so much for coming on and spending some time with us and talking stories. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Kia.
Okay, you guys, I just want to thank you so much for listening and, of course, coming on this journey with me. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you next time.